Today, I just got the keys from our new apartment. King and I are moving in together. And I want to share an unpopular opinion in this video. We decided to wait to move in together until after our engagement. We have been together for 2.5 years, and all throughout our dating phase, we maintained separate apartments. Then we got engaged in May, and now we're moving in together. Hey guys, my name is Paulina if this is your first time on my channel, and I just decided to share this unpopular point of view in case it might resonate with you or in case you want to hear an alternative opinion. So, in our relationship, we discussed this issue early on, and it felt like King and I were aligned on waiting to move in together. I think it was more of a non-negotiable for me than for him, but at the same time, he had very flexible views, and there was definitely a big overlap in terms of how we approached this topic. We both went through previous experiences that taught us that it's much harder to break up with someone if there is an element of living together. If you are in a casual relationship and you break up while living together, it is very difficult to move out. It makes the whole process much more heartbreaking and much more tedious. And there's a lot of other extra steps involved if you don't want to be with this person anymore. I personally never lived with any of my previous partners fully, but I did live with some of them temporarily. And even that experience kind of scarred me. I discovered that ending a relationship definitely gets much more entangled and much more complicated if it involves looking for a new place to live and moving out boxes and boxes of stuff and coordinating all of this like physical minutia of separating. So from past experiences, I learned that moving in together is a very big and serious step, and I want to think very carefully before I commit to something like this. So in our relationship, I think it was a big blessing that King and I were on the same page about this topic. Okay, besides the difficulty of breaking up with the person you're living together with, there are other reasons why I preferred to wait before taking this step. One of these reasons is that I see moving in together as a very serious commitment. For example, moving in together involves signing a contract if you're renting an apartment. And that contract is legally binding and it has both of your names on the lease. And the lease is usually like 12 to maybe like 24 months. So it's a time commitment as well. So it's a financial obligation. It's a legal obligation. There are all these obligations entangled in this. And of course, if both of you sign this apartment contract, it starts to tie you together for this period of time. Of course, if you're in a serious relationship, you already have a verbal commitment between you two, but this becomes a legal commitment on top of that. At the same time, in my mind, if the couple is not engaged or married, their relationship ultimately remains more casual. So for myself, I just realized that I was not that comfortable making this legally binding agreement with a person with whom we haven't committed to each other that much yet, with whom we were not planning a family yet. Another argument I have for postponing moving in together has to do with the pace of things. How fast do you want your relationship to progress? That's the question that I asked myself. And I discovered that there's no going backwards in relationships. Every single phase, once it ends, cannot be returned ever. So we only have a brief period of time to enjoy every single unique phase of the relationship. Because guess what? Once you move in together, you will not go back to not living together. Once you get engaged, you're not going to go back to casual dating. Once you get married, you're not going to go back to being engaged. Once you have a child, you're not going to go back to not having a child. So this thought process helped me understand that I want to cherish every single phase of the relationship. I didn't want to force the following phase to come prematurely. I wanted to thoroughly enjoy every single step in this evolving love story. And of course, the desired pace will be different for every single couple. But I think you should listen to yourself in terms of how soon do you want for something to happen. And once you start feeling like a certain phase is expiring naturally, that's your cue to move into the next one. And hopefully you and your partner are aligned on the timing of things. There's also something else I realized when I was thinking about living together with a man. And this is more about the feminine and masculine roles in the relationship. I come from a more traditional culture, traditional upbringing, where traditional gender roles were quite pronounced. And I think in some way it's embedded in me as a woman to be very nurturing and want to take care of the person next to me. And I definitely get very attached to that person because of the high oxytocin. So to me, living with a man makes me believe like we are a family. And I was taught to always think about my family and be selfless and take care of people who were near me. Even when King just simply comes over to my apartment, I instantly want to shower him with care. I want to cook something for him. I want to clean after him. I want to do all of these domestic chores on an almost like autopilot. When King is in my space, I start to prioritize his needs over my own needs. And I think a lot of women feel the same way. And it can be a beautiful, beautiful thing, you know, this role of a caretaker and trying to provide love and affection and actual physical care for the person that you love. But I guess in my mind, this ultimately would produce some sort of cognitive dissonance. It's like, I see this person as becoming my family because we're living together, we are a part of the same household, but at the same time, we are not a family yet. We haven't committed to each other. We haven't verbalized the commitment. We haven't started making plans to create a family. So there's kind of like a mismatch between our behavior and who we are as a couple. On the opposite hand, when I see that I have my own territory and he has his own territory and we are dating, it feels more logical and understandable to me that way because both of us are single in terms of like family status. And we're dating, getting to know each other, creating a beautiful story while still maintaining separate households. I don't know if what I'm trying to describe makes sense, but I thought about it even in my previous relationships, and I realized that this way of looking at things is what works best for me. And I also want to respond to some counter arguments that I've heard in the past. So one of the biggest counter arguments I've heard is that you have to test living with a person. Because what if you're not compatible in terms of living together? Then what are you gonna do? It becomes almost like a test drive of your living compatibility. Well, to respond to that, I want to say that I'm sure there will be surprises along the way because no matter how long we are with someone, there will always be a part of them that we don't know. Like, I'm still discovering my own self, right? I still don't know everything about myself, and this will be a lifelong journey. And likewise, I don't know everything about King, and I will never know everything about him. You know, there will always be certain surprises along the way. At the same time, though, in the last 2.5 years, we would sleep over every single night pretty much. And I would spend half of the week in his apartment and he would come over to my place all the time. So I saw how he was managing his household and he saw how I was managing mine. We also traveled together so much and I got very well acquainted with his friends and his family. And he did the same thing with all the people in my life. So I feel like these 2.5 years and all of the experiences we shared were sufficient for me to think that I will be compatible with King when we move in together. I mean, technically we just got the keys, so now we have moved in together. But yeah, I think us living together will work out. The second argument, I guess, is saving money, and it is definitely a very big factor, especially in a city like New York. I think that's a super valid argument, but at the same time, it's helpful to examine your principles and which ideas resonate with you. And in our case, we had the financial opportunity to keep living separately, so we just decided to take this route. And I guess another argument, or maybe more of a question, can be why not wait until we get married? Because technically we're still casual from like a legal point of view, right? We are engaged, but we are not married to each other. But I guess for me, engagement and planning the wedding together is already a commitment enough to move in together. Well, guys, that's all I wanted to share today. Please let me know your thoughts. Please let me know if any of you think like me and also waited to move in together until you guys were engaged or married. And thank you so much for being here with me today. I will see you in my next video. Bye, guys.